Picking up on number 6 here, which of the following describes an experimental placebo-controlled study? So here we're looking at experimental and not an observational study. So 3 of these are going to be probably observational. One's going to be experimental, so we have to go through and pick out the one that's going to be experimental. And their experimental is going to have some characteristics to it. They might state blinding, they might state randomization, and there's definitely going to be a control group for an experimental trial. So as we go through, we look at number A, and the first thing we see is non-experimental. Well, that's going to just cross us off here. It's not going to be A right away because we're looking for an experimental, and this is not experimental. Part B, if you read the very first part of the sentence, a clinical trial is organized to test new chemotherapy on its ability to increase progression-free survival, and it's randomly offered to half the participants. Well, right here, clinical trial. Clinical trial is a red flag that's an experimental trial. The other part we looked at is randomly offered to half the participants. That's saying half the participants are going to be in this clinical trial for this new chemotherapy, while the other half here receives the best standard of care, stating that's going to be the placebo group. So right here, this is already describing experimental with a placebo-controlled part. If you look at part C, you'll look at investigators are looking at the exposure, right? If we're looking and investigating, we're not assigning groups, we're just merely observing, so it's going to be observational. Researchers are interested in the causal relationship between periodontal disease hypertension, so they observe the results. Once again, they're observing, so it's not going to be an experimental trial here. Moving on to 7. If we go through this, the big thing is you're going to need to read the sentence above, and in the sentence above, or the paragraph above, it tells us how BMI, how hypertension, how they are categorized, right? So if we look at this, we'll see that BMI is going to be quantitative. Hypertension, since it's based on a yes or a no, right? There's not a number associated with it, there's not a scale associated, it's just yes or no. So this is going to be categorical. And you keep going, annual income is going to be based on dollars per year, which is going to be quantitative. Hours of sleep per night is also going to be quantitative. Calorie consumption, right here, calories a day, quantitative. We get the family history of hypertension. It's based off of yes or no. Yes or no is going to be categorical. And then we go to depression. Depression is going to be based on an index score between 7 and 1, or 1 and 7, my mistake. 1 and 7, which is going to be an ordinal ranking. Number 8, a surveyor decides to sample students randomly from a classroom in order to get information about teacher satisfaction. There are 29 students in the class. The surveyor has randomly assigned each of the students a number. The surveyor wishes to randomly select 10 students using the following table. So here we have 29 students. Think if you're in a classroom, and I want to select out of these 29 students 10 of them randomly. How am I going to do this? Well, first, we're going to put off to the side n is equal to 10, because that's how many people we want in our sample here. And then we're going to randomly assign these students. But before we get there, jumping ahead of myself, A is what kind of sample is this? Well, this is going to be a simple random sample. And then part B is what 10 students are selected from the survey. So we know we want n equals 10, and we know that if we were to assign everyone in the classroom, we would be assigning them numbers between 1 and 29. Well, when we look, we see that 29 has 2 significant figures. So we have to make sure all our values are going to have 2 significant figures, which means is we're going to be looking from 0, 1 to 29, 2, 9. So now we're going to look at our random digits line that they give us here, and we're going to go 2 significant digits deep every time to see what students are going to be picked for our survey. As we go through, our first 2 are going to be 74. Well, 74 doesn't fall between 1 and 29, so we would just kind of cross that off. The next 2, 19. 19 does fall between 1 and 29, so we're just going to mark that student 19 is going to be in our sample. So we can circle that one. The next 2 is 28. Well, 28, yep, is also going to be in our sample. And then we go to the next 2. 65 is not. 73 is not. 81 is not. And we go 10. Well, 10 is going to be in our sample because that's between 1 and 29. And then we go, so we can just circle that one. Next 2, 48. Well, that's not between there. 23. Yep. So we'll circle that one. And then we just keep doing this process. Go another 2 out. 57. No. 16. Yes. 28. Well, wait a minute. If you look, we have 28 here, and 28 was right here. Well, student 28 can't be in this process twice. So what do? We can, underline that 28 is between it, but we're going to just mark it off because we've already picked number 28. So we're going to keep going. We can't have the same person in there twice. Next one, 02. So student number 2 can get in. And then 15. Yep, 15 is good. Keep going. 98 is not. 20. 20 is good. Keep going. 48 is not. 78 is not. Here we go. We have 12. 12 is good. As you keep going, it's a good idea to double check and make sure you don't get any randoms. 35 is not. 96, 89, 73, 35, 23. Well, wait a minute. 23, hopefully as you're looking, you'll see 23. Well, 23 is also right here. So 23 also can't be in our survey. So we're not going to include 23 again. We're going to keep going. 48 is not. 7. All right, 7. We have a lot of numbers here. Let's count and see how many we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, n equals 10. These are the 10 randomly selected students for this survey. We would keep going. Remember, if you have doubles, you're not going to include them. You keep going in the survey until you find all the individuals you need. Now, if we were to finish this line out and we still didn't get the total number we needed, then we just go to the next line on our random digits table. Moving on. Number 9 here. So here we have a paragraph describing CAT scans. And as you read, it's about CAT scans and blood, scanning on blood and bone cancers in Sweden. Research team decides to collect a list of children aged 5 to 15 with blood or bone cancer and retrospectively looks at the number of CAT scans they have received in the course. Big keyword here is retrospectively. Retrospectively means looking back in time. We can't experiment on people looking back on time. So we already know that this is not experimental, so this is going to be an observational type study. There is a more specific term for these types of studies, as we saw in the books, right? We can have observational, and they can be broken down into many different types of studies. But we're not going to cover those right now. We'll cover those a little bit more towards the end of the course. Number 10. So here we have researchers are interested in the effectiveness of a new drug meant to treat HIV. Suppose a new study is conducted to compare the new study drug to the current best standards of care of highly active antiretroviral therapy. The study is mandated to be double-blinded. So we want to describe the meaning of double-blind as it relates to this particular study. So in this particular study, we want to describe what double-blinding means. I already wrote this out to save a little bit of time here, and that's neither the patient nor the physicians involved are aware of which treatment the participants will receive. So we're going to do number 11 here. On number 11, we have another paragraph which is describing a type of study that's going on. And as you read through this paragraph here, you'll see a couple key words right here. Researchers decide to randomly select a group of 250 participants from the available population, and they decide 125. And once again, randomly assigned to receive either the new study drug or saline solution intervention, which would be a placebo. So once again, we have randomly selected, the randomly assigned. This is all leading to a type of experimental trial. So this is, what type of study is this? This is experimental. What level is blinding present here? So as we read down, the results would be compared and neither the patient, study doctor, nor the monitoring board would be aware of the random assignment. So we would say that what level of blinding is present here. We'd say either triple or third level blinding is present. All right, I'm going to stop the video here and pick up the last part of this packet in the next video. Have a great day.